It's really wonderful to be here with you, Ray, in this sacred space that we've been sitting in here for a little while. And we've been talking a little bit about the blueprint and the imprint, and part of what we really want to do is clear up maybe some of these points, define them, and get people to hear and feel them too while we're talking. But we know that as we come into form, and I've heard you talk about this, and I love listening to you talk about stepping down into the creation. We meet with experience, and that experience causes impressions upon us. And I know I've seen you speak about these imprints before. I'm wondering if you could just, review a little bit what you've said and what you know.
Yeah. So, what is the blueprint? What is an imprint? And how important are blueprints and imprints to our lives daily, in the moment? I have the good fortune of having studied an energetic form of body work, polarity therapy with Randolph Stone. And Randolph Stone, in his work, he was an old osteopath and chiropractor and naturopath, and in his work, he referred to the blueprint. And it's not something you can really read about. We can think about it and talk about it, and we'll say some things about it here, but understanding the blueprint is an experiential process. It's something we have to come into resonance with so that we can actually feel it. It's something that happens between the words and the phrases. It's something that occurs outside of thought. It comes from perception and attention.
And I've heard you and some of your friends and students talk about it as a knowing. It's like you can drop in and feel it. There's a rhythm that we can feel. There is a pattern that we can feel. It's a knowing. They know, like the mom and baby know what to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I'm actually going to be broader than that right now, but if you look at the universe, it is known in science that everything is oscillating and expanding and contracting, expanding and gathering together. I like that phrase better than gathering together, better than contracting. So there's always an expansion and a contraction. There's gravity of how the Earth is spinning and how the moon's spinning around the Earth and how the Earth and the moon are moving around the sun and our solar system and all of that.
Rhythms,
And there's natural rhythms as we move and the sun moves. We have daylight and nighttime. We have 6-hour rhythms with the tides coming in and out with all of our oceans. So those natural rhythms are happening. Most of us are aware of the rhythms of our heart, of our intercostal diaphragmatic breathing, or taking oxygen and air in and to our lungs and breathing out. There's a rhythm to that. And in our work in looking at these rhythms from somatic, from a body point of view, from a body psychological point of view, we experience these rhythms to be slow rhythms of expanding and contracting. And we think that all of life needs to resonate, needs to be in rhythm with the core of life itself. It's how the life force. So it's an experiential thing, and in order to perceive it, we actually have to get quiet. So if we're running around, moving around really fast, if our mind is going really fast, if we're thinking, the perception of that phenomena doesn't happen. So one of the things that we do in our work with all the folks that we train is we work to slow down, to slow ourselves down, and to be with ourselves in those slow rhythms. Now, that's all well and good. That's me in relationship to me, you in relationship to you. Mm-hmm. But if you take and you look at a family, and you sit with a family, and you sit with a mom and dad who have all kinds of pressures on them, mm-hmm. and they've got work, and the way the whole economy is right now, where it disfavors young people that are raising kids.
It's true.
You know, so there's a lot of pressure on parents. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of irons in the fire, mm-hmm. a lot of survival going on.
It's true.
And so what happens is the parents themselves don't know they actually need to have the time to slow down with themselves and their kids.
Yeah, sometimes it can raise up a certain amount of anxiety to slowing down for them. That's what I've noticed is there's a lot of the patterns of their lives are set with certain things that drive them, and so mm-hmm. if they slow down, then they can't make their pattern work. Mm-hmm. You have to help them to reframe.
Yeah, the process of slowing down, of taking time, can bring up our histories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that the imprint then, Ray?
Well, that's the imprint. Yeah, I was wanting to do a little more yet, still with the sense of blueprint. But
yeah, please.
It's, you know, if you sit down with those rhythms, when it's like one person with one person, like a practitioner with one person, mm-hmm. a craniosacral therapist or a polarity therapist or a body worker, and they get in rhythm with their client. We'll see rhythms that are about 90-second cycles and be slow rhythms. Mm-hmm. But when we sit down with a family, we sit down with groups of people, small groups of people, we perceive rhythms that are like 5-minute cycles, 2.5 minutes of expansion, mm-hmm. and 2.5 minutes of contraction. That's very, very slow for where most of us are.
It's true.
But the value of dropping down into those slow rhythms is that our body within ourselves begins to resonate and harmonize, so that like all our organs, our nervous system, and everything starts to hum in a way that it works well. Mm-hmm. When that happens in relationships, mother, baby, dad, partner, when that happens in relationships, what happens is the babies organize really well in their bodies, mm-hmm. in their psyches, in their emotions, in their minds, in their connection. And babies are ready for connection, mm-hmm. and they are in the surround of the people that are holding them, and they don't differentiate between themselves and what's around them. That's right. So the babies need people around them that can slow down and be quiet, mm-hmm. and just be willing to discover with the baby how life is. So there's a big difference then now between what we're calling blueprint and imprint.
Well, one of the questions that we were asked was, is it possible, like, not all imprints are overwhelming. Right. Some of them are quite positive. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, we have the sense that everything we're experiencing, we're recording all the time. Somewhere in our body, our implicit memory, mm-hmm. our right brain mm-hmm. memory, our visceral memory.
Right. The body remembers, yes. The
body remembers. And then we have, our explicit memory, which is I came, I saw, I conquered. I'm going to put it together logically, speak about it, give it language. And
it's the story, yeah.
Yeah. and get the story and all of that. And so what we see is that we come into the world, come into the creation, and whatever the experience of the people that are there, the parents, whatever that experience is, that gets recorded by the baby.
Yeah.
And that baby grows, and the cells divide, and the systems get more specific, and they differentiate, and that baby's body grows under the influence of what the environmental factors are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that baby gets enough experience of people just being present, just in this present moment,
Mm-hmm.
being together,
Mm-hmm.
enjoying each other,
Mm-hmm.
being connected, if the baby is getting enough of that, that baby will be able to reference that as an imprint, as a positive imprint.
Yeah.
If the adult world is the folks holding that baby,
Mm-hmm.
if they are capable and willing to just come into the present moment, and they leave that space open, they will discover from their baby what the baby needs. And they will learn with their baby what to do. Nursing is like that.
Right. Well, we're encountering babies that are having difficulties, even, with nursing and other things too. But there's ways that when I've talked with you and Anna Chitty and other people, we know that if we can bring more attention and life and feeling into the blueprint, that slowing down place, it can slowly work with overwhelming states.
That actually becomes the reference.
The blueprint does?
The blueprint becomes the reference. It's an interesting thing. There's a lot of, there's two major words in the trauma world. One is resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and the other word is resource.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we're looking for resources, right? And if we look at it just in terms of imprints, and you try and look for resources in the imprint, and if we have a history that is pretty much been a traumatic history that's stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked, it's really challenging to find resources in that imprint memory.
Mm-hmm.
But what everybody comes in with is the blueprint, the basic expansion and contraction that's going on in all levels of the universe, down to the specific, down to every single cell, every single atom, every single quark. Everything is moving in resonance to a unifying field.